Hello, my name is Siraj, Assistant Professor in Information Systems at the Örebro University School of Business. I welcome you to this presentation on an overview of business modeling and business architecture. After this presentation, you should be able to understand the relationships between an enterprise, business systems, and information systems, define and relate business modeling and business architecture, identify essential contents for a typical business model framework, understand principle of a successful business architecture, and introduce some business modeling techniques. A business system is a part of a major system of an enterprise. A production enterprise, for example, is structured into several business systems, such as the engineering system, the production system, the marketing system, the personnel system, the finance system, and the accounting system. An enterprise is therefore seen as a set of business systems. Each business system has associated one or more enterprise information system, as you can see in this figure. In order to further elaborate, a business system is comprised by an organized set of activities called business process that are designed and performed by a group of actors with the purpose of achieving a set of predefined goals. Actors are organized into a job structure composed by business units, for example, departments, divisions, sections, and so on. Actors have associated roles that define the responsibilities for performing processes. Each process requires, uses, or involves a set of business objects. Example, personnel, clients, raw materials, products, and other things. And one or more technologies, for example, information systems, production methods, techniques, or instruments. A business process is triggered by an event, for example, the arrival of raw materials or a service order, which may modify the state of the objects involved in the process. A process is regulated by business rules, for example, laws, policies, norms, and procedures. This figure also shows a relationship between a business system and its enterprise information systems, or EIS. The EIS objective is to produce the information needed by actors in a business system. Actors request information from an EIS to perform business processes. The EIS applies the requested information by processing the data stored in its database. An AIS database is a model of the business objects associated with the business system. Each relevant object of the business system is represented in the database by a data object, which captures the state and behavior that business object has in the business system at a given time. The business processes and the events that occur in the business system or in its environment generate data that are used by the EIS to update the database. The tight relationships that exist between a business system and its EISs suggest the need for modeling the business system as a previous phase or stage in the process of developing an EIS. We will capture more details about the components of business systems in the following presentations. A business model describes the rationale of how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. Organizations are expanding their innovations focus from products and processes to business models in order to remain competitive in the face of shrinking product life cycles and growing market uncertainties. They are increasingly embracing the business model concept in strategic planning, accompanied by a greater focus on customers and corresponding value propositions. In a parallel development, organizations are using business architecture to provide increased business transparency and maximize the likelihood of an effective and successful deployment of a strategy. Business architecture is defined as a blueprint of the enterprise that provides a common understanding of the organization and used to align strategic objectives and tactical demands. Business architecture is the bridge between the enterprise business model and enterprise strategy. Despite the natural progression from business models to business architecture, these two concepts have evolved separately. Business architecture primarily focuses on the business motivations, business operations, and business analysis frameworks and related networks that link these aspects of the enterprise together. In order to develop an integrated view of an enterprise, many different views of an organization are typically developed. The major views of the enterprise within the business architecture are: 1. The business strategy view, 2. The business capabilities view, 3. The value stream view, 4. The business knowledge view, and 5. The organizational view. The figure in this slide shows the different dimensions of defining a solution, moving from business architecture through a definition of the application architecture, and finally the implementation of the application through a technical or infrastructure architecture. The business architecture focuses on defining the strategy and associated processes, the best practice models, the business as a set of cohesive and loosely coupled components that can be combined as a network to support the underlying business activities and that can be shared across the enterprise. These business components combine similar activities, resulting in increased flexibility and efficiencies. Organizations must be able to articulate their business models in sufficient detail in order to deploy them successfully. A business articulates business models most effectively through the practice of business architecture. Additionally, businesses that leverage the business architecture as a vehicle for realizing one or more business models gains value from the synergies across both disciplines. This includes, as you can see in the figure on your right, using business architecture to visualize the external and internal impacts of the business model. Business modeling is primarily concerned with ideation, capturing and synthesizing different ideas from across a business into a cohesive description of the future state. And a framework helps to structurize the elements, relationships, representations, and classification of one or more business models. Business model innovation takes the concepts to a completely new level, requiring new skills, tools, and structured methods built around design thinking and agile practices. Business will most likely attain the most desirable outcomes if they embrace not only regular use of business modeling techniques, but employ complementary business architecture practices. Business modeling's long-term success and effectiveness as a business design tool rest on a business ability to turn conceptual ideas, which look great on paper, into deployable, future-state business blueprints and related solutions. An organization's context involves its operating environment. Without understanding context, we immediately jump in our heads to what we want to determine next based on the very first few words we hear from the other person. This may lead to undesirable consequences in most cases. The context must be determined both within the organization and external to the organization. It is important to understand internal architectural levels and the unique context of an organization before designing a business model. To establish the context means to define the external and internal factors that the organizations must consider when they manage risk. An organization's internal context is the internal environment within which the organization seeks to achieve its sustainability goals. Once the internal context is understood, one can conduct the macro-environmental external analysis using several methods such as Porter's 5 forces analysis framework, Francis Aguilar's PEST analysis framework, which is often linked with SWOT or SWOT analysis. Here in this figure we can use Alexander Westerwalder's the business model canvas, which is a strategic management and lean startup template for developing new or documenting existing business models. We will know more about this canvas in details in the end of this presentation. This canvas also helps to grasp a business model context. The answer of following strategic question will help us to understand several aspects of business context. For example, business environment. We should ask what are the business conditions and external drivers. For external planning and business model innovation, we should ask what is the game plan, where can you innovate. For organization design, we can ask how will the organization be shaped. For customer experience design, we can ask how will the business models work together to provide the intended customer experience. For operating model, you may ask how will business infrastructure elements work together to realize the business models. And for business model, you may ask how will value be created, delivered, and captured. A business model structure defines the content of a business model produced. It indicates how to organize a business model and the types of diagrams that must be used to represent a specific business concepts that characterize a particular business system. The structure is shown in this table. According to this structure, a business model is composed by a set of 7 models. Each model is an instantiation of its corresponding meta-model. An important decision to be made during the business modeling process is the notations and languages that the modeling team must use to represent the structure and behavior of the business concepts described by the meta-models. An example of such model is UML. Apart from UML, here in this table you see several other modeling languages. Now let me present the core contents of this structure as an example from a study conducted by Montilva and Barrios, which was aimed at developing a business modeling method for enterprise for information systems development. Business goals. Goals are the reason of being of a business system. They are established by actors, for example, top managers and stakeholders, to comply with business interests and needs demanded by the environment. Goals may be classified according to their scope into vision, mission, and objectives. A vision is a purposive statement on how the stakeholders envisage the enterprise or business systems in the coming future. A mission is a broad, purposive statement that establishes the reasons of being of the enterprise. An objective is a state or condition that contributes to the fulfillment of the mission. Objectives can be classified into several categories such as general or specific, quantitative or qualitative. Business processes. To reach its goals, a business system must design, organize, and perform a set of activities called business processes. A business process is a set of structured and hierarchical activities designed for reaching business goals. This figure shows the definition of the process concepts and its relationships. Process may be organized into several categories. As you can see in this figure, that illustrates two of the most common categorization of business processes. Primary and support processes, for instance, are categories associated with the value chain of an enterprise. Actors. Business processes are carried out by actors. An actor may be either a person or a machine capable of performing defined actions or tasks. Actors may be external or internal to the scope of the business system. External actors are part of the business system environment. They interact with the business system to fulfill their needs or provide resources. Clients, suppliers, shareholders, and actors belonging to other business systems are examples of external actors. Internal actors, on the other hand, are part of the business system. Instead of modeling actors as person, we are more interested in representing the roles they play in a business system. Each role is responsible for performing a set of tasks which are part of one or more business processes. Technologies. Business processes use technologies to perform their activities more efficiently and effectively. For instance, information and communication technologies such as computer networks, EISs, and databases are commonly used to support the efficient execution of business processes in many enterprises. Depending on the purpose of the enterprise, different technologies are applied to support business processes. Most business processes are highly tied to the technologies they apply. The influence of the technologies in the business processes becomes more apparent in the middle and low levels of the business process hierarchy. Many low-level processes activities are determined by the technologies they use. Business rules. Business processes are delimited not only by the technologies they use, but also by the business rules they must comply. A business system must adhere, for instance, to the government regulations and laws imposed by its operating environment. Similarly, a business system must satisfy the policies, plans, and standards established internally by the enterprise managers. Processes are therefore regulated or controlled by a set of business rules. These rules may be of different types, as shown in some other figures. Modeling a business process involves the previous identification and modeling of the business rule that controls its execution. Business objects. The execution of a business process involves a set of entities called business objects. A business object is a concrete or abstract thing that is relevant to the business system. For instance, resources such as people, money, raw materials, equipment, and data are types of business objects that are required to carry out processes. Clients and suppliers are also types of business objects that participate in many processes. And finally, the events. Processes are activated by the occurrences of events. An event is an action of very short duration that takes place inside or outside the business system. It signals the starting or ending point of a process. Events may be programmed or non-programmed. For instance, The occurrence of the starting time of an activity that is established in a plan or schedule is a programmed event, whereas the occurrence of an accident or an equipment fault is a non-programmed event. Events are also classified into external and internal. External events occurs in the environment of the business system. The arrival of a service order is an example of external events caused by an external actor or another business system. Internal events happen into the business system. Business architecture is based on a core set of principles that guide the understanding and use of business architecture to solve business problems. According to a research paper, there are big 5 core principles. First, business architecture is about the business. Many business efforts lead to an IT execution as part of solution architecture, but business architecture cannot be focused on IT execution. When business architecture is focused on IT, it often becomes intertwined with technology and loses its business focus. Once this starts to happen, business people lose interest and do not take ownership of the business architecture. Second, business architecture is not prescriptive. There are no two organizations or business situations that are exactly alike. This means that the same business architecture, deliverables, and techniques cannot be employed in every situation. If you are looking for a cookbook that explains how to solve every problem the same way, business architecture is not for you. Third, business architecture is iterative. Business architecture is not a waterfall approach. Each iteration provides more insights into a business problem, and the potential solutions for addressing it become progressively more detailed over time. As a result, with business architecture, one doesn't need to know everything about everything to move ideas forward, but just enough to make the next decision. Fourth, business architecture is reusable. Business architecture is not a one-time analysis of a business environment. Rather, it provides a foundation for future analysis and decision making. Unless an organization has fundamentally changed, for example through acquisition, the existing business architecture description and deliverable should be used as a starting point for future efforts. And fifth, business architecture is not only about deliverables. The deliverables that are created and how they are delivered is of critical importance, but don't focus only on the generation of a specific deliverables and forget about the process of business architecture. When business architecture becomes only about developing deliverables, it loses its power and creativity. Remember, the reason you are doing business architecture: to drive consensus, bring people together, achieve clarity, and solve problems. There are also a number of key concepts about business architecture that many organizations struggle to understand. Here are those. A good business model provides a software-independent description of the business processes to be automated, thereby promoting a good understanding of priorities. So what does a good business model look like? First, it consists of two major parts: a business use case model and a business object model. Business use cases describe business processes. These processes are documented as a sequence of actions that provide observable value to a business actor. Another way to think of a business use case is that it documents a particular business workflow. The main use cases as shown here are individual check-in and group check-in. The diagram here also shows business actors, the stick figures label passenger and tour guide. To fully understand the purpose of a business, you must know who the business interacts with, that is, who puts demand on it or is interested in its output. The different types of interactors are represented as business actors. These are most often customers, but they could also include suppliers, partners, potential customers, local authorities, or colleagues in parts of the business that are not modeled yet. The structure of the workflow is described graphically with the help of a universal modeling language or UML activity diagram, which you may get to know more details from other presentations and relevant papers. Second part of a business model is the business object model. Whereas a business use case model tells what a business process will do, a business object model tells how it will be done. It serves as an abstraction of how business workers and business entities need to be related and to collaborate in order to perform the business. This figure on your right shows part of a business object model. It is a business class diagram showing business workers and business entities. While business modeling can be done either independently or as part of a business process engineering efforts, we are interested in how it can help improve the software development process. In fact, a universal modeling language or UML-based business model can be a direct input to a requirement model. In this case, the Rational Unified Process or RUP defines direct mapping between the two models, and if you map a business model to an analysis model. Such mapping could be 1. A business process that is to be automated will be represented as a use case. 2. A business use case that will become a subsystem. And 3. Each business entity that will become an entity class. This mapping altogether provides a head start for the requirements and analysis and design workflow. Depending on the business context and situation, a variety of modeling tools and techniques may be deployed. There is no straightforward answer on which one to choose. The best choice is to blend together all of these methodologies in a way that works well within certain context of an organization. Examples of some modeling techniques include activity model, use case models, class models, node connectivity diagram, and information exchange matrix. Activity models, also called business process models, describe the functions associated with the enterprise's business activities, the data and information exchanged between activities, and the data and information exchanged with other activities that are outside the scope of the model. Activity models are hierarchical in nature. They capture the activities performed in a business process and the outcomes of those activities. Here the outcomes are inputs, controls, outputs, and mechanism or resources used. Activity models can be annotated with explicit statements of business rules, which represent relationships among the outcomes. For example, a business rule can specify who can do what under a specified condition. Excuse me. The combination of inputs and controls needed and the resulting outputs. One technique for creating activity models is the IDF, that is Integrated Computer-Aided Manufacturing Definition Modeling Technique. Use case models can describe either business processes or system functions, depending on the focus of the modeling effort. A use case model describes the business processes of an enterprise in terms of use cases and actors corresponding to business processes and organizational participants. The use case model is described in use case diagrams and use case specifications. Class models are similar to logical data models. A class model describes static information and relationships between information. A class model also describes information behaviors. Like many of the other models, it can also be used to model various levels of granularity. Depending on the intent of the model, a class model can represent business domain entities or systems implementation classes. A business domain model represents key business information, their characteristics or attributes, their behaviors, which are methods or operations, and relationships that often referred to as multiplicity, describing how many classes typically participate in the relationship, and cardinality that describes required or optional participation in the relationships. Specifications further elaborates and detail information that cannot be represented in the class diagram. All three types of model above can be represented in the Unified Modeling Language or UML, and a variety of tools exist for generating such models. Certain industry sectors have modeling techniques specific to the sector concerned. For example, the defense sector uses the node connectivity diagram and information exchange matrix. These models have to be used carefully, especially if the location and conduct of business processes will be altered in the visionary business architecture. The node connectivity diagram describes the business location or nodes, the needliness between them, and the characteristics of the information exchange. Node connectivity can be described at three levels: conceptual, logical, and physical. Each need line indicates the need for some kind of information transfer between the two connected nodes. The information exchange matrix documents the information exchange requirements for an enterprise architecture. Information exchange requirements express the relationships across three basic entities, which are activities, business nodes, and the elements and information flow, and focus on the characteristics of the information exchange, such as performance and security. They identify who exchanges what information with whom, why the information is necessary, and in what manner. Also, it is needed to mention here that there are several types of enterprise architecture methodologies such as Jackman, TOGAF, FEA, and Gartner. The Jackman framework is an enterprise ontology and is a fundamental structure for enterprise architecture, which provides a formal and a structured way of viewing and defining an enterprise. The Open Group Architecture Framework, or TOGAF, is a framework for enterprise architecture that provides an approach for designing, planning, implementing, and governing an enterprise information technology architecture. A federal enterprise architecture, or FEA, is the enterprise architecture of a federal government. It provides a common approach for the integration of strategic, business, and technology management as part of organization design and performance improvement. Gartner's Enterprise Architecture Framework is a multi-phase, iterative, and nonlinear model focused on enterprise architecture process development, evaluation, and migration, and governance, organizational, and management sub-processes. It brings together three constituents strategically, which are business owners, information specialists, and the technology implementers. You will get to know more details about those architectural methodologies in some other presentations later. Finally, in the next slide, we'll watch a 2-minute overview of the business model canvas, which is a tool for visionaries, game changers, and challengers. This method from the best-selling management book entitled Business Model Generation is applied in leading organizations and startups worldwide.
An organization's business model can be described with 9 basic building blocks: your customer segments, your value proposition for each segment, the channels to reach customers, customer relationships you establish, the revenue streams you generate, the key resources and key activities you require to create value, the key partners, and the cost structure of the business model. But it's not sufficient to just enumerate the 9 building blocks. What you really want to do is to map them out on a pre-structured canvas. This is what we call the business model canvas, a tool that helps you map, discuss, design, and invent new business models. Let's briefly go through the 9 building blocks, starting with the customer segments. These are all the people or organizations for which you're creating value. This includes simple users and paying customers. For each segment, you have a specific value proposition. These are the bundles of products and services that create value for your customers. The channels describe through which touchpoints you're interacting with customers and delivering value. The customer relationships outline the type of relationship you're establishing with your customers. The revenue streams make clear how and through which pricing mechanisms your business model is capturing value. Then you need to describe the infrastructure to create, deliver, and capture value. The key resources show which assets are indispensable in your business model. The key activities show which things you really need to be able to perform well. The key partners show who can help you leverage your business model, since you won't own all key resources yourself, nor will you perform all key activities. Then once you understand your business model's infrastructure, you'll also have an idea of its cost structure. So with the business model canvas, you can map out your entire business model in one image. This works for startup entrepreneurs just as well as for the most senior executives.
Thank you so much for watching this presentation. Please feel free to leave feedback and contact us if you have any query. We really wish you a pleasant learning and good time. Bye for now.